All right. I should have made this video a long time ago, but this video I feel is a bit important. See, back in the year 2000, we had the Y2K scare. There was a lot of paranoia out there in the world. Plus, we were coming off of the end of the 90s, which kind of, there was an emphasis on like darkness or grittiness and a lot of entertainment and storytelling. There was a game produced at the very end of 1999, and I do believe it was August was when we first got like the first samples of it, and the box came out like in like November or December of 1999. But so essentially in year 2000, FOSSA Games released, it wasn't one of their creations. Someone had approached them and said, hey, let's make this game, and FOSSA said yes. It was the first war game that I know of that specifically had universal design rules and encouraged you to use them over the forces that came in the manual. They were going to release, in fact, a source book for making your own custom forces. That never happened, of course, because in 2001, literally a year and a half after this game launched, FOSSA went the way of oblivion. Or, as you could say it, the VORAC. This is VOR the Malestrom. When this game came out, 40K did not yet dominate the science fiction wargame scene, and this game had a ton of promise. 40K players played this game. People who played other war games played this game. People who played Dungeons and Dragons played this game. For the short period of time this game came out, this game was it. I mean, I'm going to show you a lot of things about VOR the Malestrom today, but the thing is that there was a lot of hope in this game, and it only lasted for like, a year and a half. People actually continued playing VOR for a little bit afterwards, but in 2008, the guy who owned the rights, the original creator, Mike Scuzzy Nielsen, 2008 he announced that 2.0 was being launched. Never got around to actually making it. He had a bioplasm.org site up for quite a while, but I myself went to that site and checked it a few times. It never really got off the ground. In 2010, he tried to launch one last Kickstarter to get VOR going, but it actually failed. So VOR the Malestrom, it does have one last living thing about it, that you can still go to Ironwind Metals, buy their miniatures. VOR the Malestrom had a few things. I wouldn't say it was the first to do these, but it was the first to have it like commonly available. It was the first war game that I ever came across. No, wait, second one. There was a White Wolf war game that did this because, White Wolf. But, and there was Clan War, which did this too. This was a war game that used D10s instead of D6s. Awesome stuff. I love D10s as a war game item because, let's be honest, they're easier to roll than like a D20. They don't flop around as much. And they, instead of offering a 1 to 6 chance, they offer a 1 to 10 chance. So you can do percentiles on factors of 10. So you can use kind of real statistics. I like D10s that way. It also had an alternate activation system where the person who won the initiative for that round got to choose, if they chose the opponent to go first, they actually got to pick a specific unit and said, these guys get to go first. Now the opponent could still do whatever they want to with that unit, but that unit had to choose to go first. This game had a lot of interesting, fun little tactical things that just carried out. On the downside, the world design was kind of wonky and extremely predatory, being a 90s game, like everything was out to destroy everything else. It was very grimdark before Warhammer 40K became grimdark. Well, Warhammer 40K was kind of grimdark even in the beginning, but VOR really, 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 really was. In fact, I would say that 40K, as it is right now, has more hope to the setting than VOR the Malestrom does, by far. VOR the Malestrom is a game about ending destruction. In fact, if you run it as rules is written, the terrain can kill you in this game. So, and it may be that during the battle, you're fighting it out, but when you roll on a certain thing, and all of a sudden, congratulations, a wandering asteroid hits the world you're fighting at, and the entire battlefield is obliterated. If people want to say bad things about VOR because of that, I'm not going to stop them. I mean, that's pretty harsh for a war game. In any case, VOR the Malestrom is mostly a black and white book. There's a color version of this poster that was issued in middle 1999. That was the advertising for VOR. The front part introduces you to, hey, this is the entire world of VOR, which is, you know, psychotic, scary stuff. I mean, okay, so yeah, I have problems. My stand gets something. I'll try to bring it too far down. But anyway, yeah, you can see what the VOR kind of looks like as far as the setting is concerned. The first part is a bunch of black and white. Then it comes to a few color splats that show you these are the races involved, and it has like the Union, the Soviet Union. The Union is like North America. Soviet Union is like the Soviet Union, and a bunch of other races. They only ever released the Growlers Union, Soviets Zyki. People liked the Zyki, the Shard, and the Pharaon. The Shard and the Pharaon got a lot of hate from certain people just because they were overpowered compared to some of the other races. I myself wanted to become a Pharaon player, and then, you know, the game ended. They were literally the last book to be released. There's also a few other races they never actually got around to making books for. They made figures for these guys, the golems. They made figures for them, but they never really came anywhere from there. And the Seru kind of guys. They had to show a bunch of miniatures and stuff in the color section. There's a black and white Zyki. They put glossy red paint on the original Growlers. Why, guys? Why? Also, I'm pretty sure that Matthew Wilson designed those. They look pretty much almost just like the trolls from Iron Kingdoms. You know, Horde's War Machine. So, in any case, yeah, it's a kind of a fun little thing. The Shard are actually really dang cool. They're maleficent though. They will attack other biological creatures though. They want to kill living creatures to stop the Pharaon, who are undead, from eating them and staying around for longer. So the cool thing about this is you go into the back and it has the basic rules, and the rules are pretty simple. They're D10 based. This is one of those games where it's not very superlative, so no matter what you're rolling for, damage or 2-hit or whatnot, there's a chance you can roll failures, a chance you can roll success. You could shoot a pistol at a massive tank and do some damage to it, which is kind of a weird rule. I myself do not mind rules where there's a flat out, you can't do that. Like, you can't kill a tank with a sword in Flames of War. And in VOR, it's closer to happening. In VOR, your guys can survive getting shot to pieces, so... There's a bunch of like generic vehicles and custom creation stuff. There's a very short, they have a really crappy art for it. Let me go there. Where is it? Okay. Custom Creation Force. It has the concepts, the charts. You had to literally base your stat off a basic stat line and then modify up and down to there to make whatever faction you want it to be. You can make small models. I learned that the hard way. That's not small as in like people. That's small as in like halflings, or you want to play fairies or some crap like that. Anything small, roly-polies, I guess a chibi race would work like that. Medium models, everybody else. Large models. Given the fact that this game had like some really freaking, like there's a guy called Razor Fang. His model is big enough to use as a murder weapon. They should have had a super large model in there. Oh well. But anyway, and then I had a bunch of charts for how to modify your junk up and down so it was the custom force you wanted to be. They weren't great, but it was better than nothing. And considering they were planning on making an actual codex for custom forces, had that book dropped somewhere in the first part, this game would have been awesome. There's rumors that there's a PDF online. I have yet to go find it. I kind of want to. Of course, it has a hobby section in the end. And the game did come with templates. I myself accidentally, glued the back page of my book to the very back. The templates were in here, and they were stuck with that glue. And guess what I did? Not so much by accident, I guess. I forgot. The back of the book is a reference guide. Thank God. However, you kind of have to make a photocopy because, if you have a reference guide, there's 2 players or more in a war game. So the templates were nothing to write home about. Transparent template kind of did the job. They were marked in inches and half inches, so that's pretty cool. Flamer template for both big flamers and small flamers. They actually have an automatic weapons fire template where you could either point this away or point this directly, and everything in that area got dakka when you open up full automatic. So you can see that there, I hope. There you go. And so yeah, it has an arrow on it to show which direction the fire is coming from. So you can spray an area with dakka if you want to. I wish I still had my miniatures for this. I didn't have many. I had a shard force that actually disappeared. I forgot where the heck it went to. And then I had a few models for the Pharaon when they came out. But those I think I accidentally gave those away because of stupid things that happened in life. But in any case, this is the book for the main rule book. If you buy the main box set, this should come in there, along with like a blister that has miniatures and some very cheap repetitive resin terrain. Very melted stuff. Here's the book that a lot of people like, although it's also a powerhouse book. This is Shard. I have it. The Shard book, I believe, is mostly just black and white. Let me just dibble through it here. Do I see black and white? No, they have color. The color section in the middle. Okay. One of the coolest things about the Shard was this sucker. I loved that thing. I never actually owned one, but if Ironwood Models still makes them, I might go out and get one. Or if someone has it for cheap on eBay, hell yeah. They are fun. It's a gigantic tank that walks around that the Shard used. They're just nice. Very cool. The Shard models were cool. It was a very elite faction where they were the big bad dudes who could walk up to a unit of guys and just take them all out at once. Nothing subtle about them. They had these guys that were pretty cool. I never liked these. They had like nanite swarms, like goo piles that swarmed around. Not my idea of a fun time. If you're going to play Shard, bring the guys with the razor feet and bring the guys with the guns for arms. Those guys are cool. Just go do that. Yeah, they had smaller walker types, but oh well. Yeah, Shard, man. They're a psychotic force of what the heck? He looks human. Yuck. They're supposed to be like, well, these guys were drawn by a guy who wants to be H.R. Geiger. The most Shards have a lot more techno look to them than what you see here. But oh well. So yeah. Kind of cool, isn't it? You know, no gross and stuff. I like the front cover the most, honestly. Even though it may not be the most consistent with the rest of the art they have for this book, I really do like the look of them on this front cover. So yeah, I think my guys were mostly blue with green spots on them, kind of like these guys. Kind of like that idea. So there's that. And then the book that I plan on investing in, and of course it has the most wear because I've used this book, the Pharaon. Yeah, they're kind of overpowered, but they have their faults, and I was planning on not playing them. I wanted to just take like a bunch of basic soldiers, and then add some support soldiers to that, have like a basic officer in charge, and then include a bunch of the Egyptian girls that they made. It's just kind of funny because they're undead, right? But because of vain stuff, they the highest ranks of their undead society, you know, noble women who use magic, would try to go for full restoration. So you'd have units of essentially living women, even though they're actually more like vampires or recreated mummies, that would do magic. Their color section is, yeah, it has a almost fully restored. And then a bunch of dead guys, blah, you know, kicking around. There's some art of the Pharaon rising from their grave. Disgusting guys, I know, but that's the fun thing about a war game. If you don't like them, just shoot them a bunch and they'll go away eventually. Even if they have some broken-ass powers. I didn't plan on ever running special characters. I'll put it that way. Special characters suck in the Pharaon book. They literally have some broken guys in there. That's just a guy. I just showed you some art because the art in this book is actually kind of cool. So yeah, my plan was to just take like an ordinary, not a fallen lord. They had an ordinary guy that you could take that was your ordinary leader. A Hierophant might have been cool to, you know, just have some magic kicking around, but I was going to go with an ordinary dude. General troops. They have basic zombie types you could bring. Fist of Anubis, the basic Pharaon looking guy. They have a picture somewhere. I've gone past them. You've seen them before in the main rulebook. I had one of those guys. Those guys are really cool models. That's kind of how I painted mine too. It looked similar to that, except for it was, you know, less shiny metallic and more like sandy metallic that I put a wash of metallic stuff over. And there's the model I had for the Fist of Anubis. And now I'm just lost in my own book. But yeah, it's mostly just text, and they, you know, there's the God King aspect. Horrible guy he is. Most of their special characters are just broken as hell. I don't plan on using special characters anyway. I'm not one of those kind of guys who likes doing that. I just bring soldiers and fight a war game, you know? So, this was the Pharaon book. And like I said, I wish I still had miniatures for it, but I don't. So my army would pretty much be like 2 ranks or 2 units worth of the normal foot troops dudes. And then they have a unit that's not full on power armor, but they're close to it. And they have like support weapons like cannons and missile launchers. I was going to have a unit of like 3 or 5 of those. A commander, maybe a subnoble, and then like 4 or 5 of these girls running around doing magic shit. The girly magic's actually kind of cool compared to the stuff the Hierophants do. The Hierophants can like stop time, raise the dead, really awesome stuff according to like, you know, most people's idea. But the girls could actually point out a section of the battlefield and say, if you are a unit in this section of the battlefield, you may regenerate wounds. If you're a section of the unit in this battlefield, you gain an action. If you think about it, that's great stuff. You know, you can do stuff like that to just completely bolster one of your fronts and just plow through the enemy with a unit that wasn't expecting that to happen. So I like the kind of magic where it's like, you guys get better all of a sudden. Besides, you're playing a war game. You know, it's nice to blow people's heads off with magic, but it's nicer to turn the tides of battle in your direction that way. So there's this VOR. VOR is a game that a lot of people really had hope and interest in, and it died so suddenly. Which is why it's here on my channel, the dead games. There are very few dead games that are missed, but this is one of them. And several times in my history, I've planned to go back. Reaper Miniatures makes some models I wanted to buy so I could play VOR. I've actually been collecting Eldar bits, so I can use the Eldar bits to put on the undead mummy models and potentially play VOR that way, but it hasn't happened yet. Once I find someone who's actually a VOR collector that plays VOR around where I live, I'll probably just explode into joy and finally, after all these years, build a Pharaon army and probably get, you know, I won't expand it nasty. Like I said, I'm going to play a very basic Pharaon army so people have a chance to fight against me. I don't want to play a ridiculously overpowered force. So yeah, VOR the Malestrom.